What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Just want to vlog a little bit for this video to put some things out there about living a life after having COVID-19. Now, this is not like my last video about my COVID-19. I'm not going to go into any of that. This is going to be other information. So, just a little brief recap. Tested positive for COVID-19 on the 8th of October 2020. Finally tested negative for COVID-19 on the 29th of October. So, it was after that, I went to my office where I work on the Saturday, because we're not open on Saturdays traditionally, and to not interact with customers because there's still a weak immune system, just weak in general. I went down to the office to kind of begin to prepare to catch up what I had got behind on in those 20-some days of being in isolation. So I think I went for like two and a half hours or something, and I left because I was getting tired. So that's one thing after battling COVID-19, the extreme fatigue that you feel. But that day that I went down there, I noticed there were two sets of people that I encountered as I basically got reintroduced to the population after being in isolation. There was one set of people that were like, "Oh my God, we're so glad you're well, and we're so glad you're okay, and we're so glad you're back up and going, and you're recuperating," and things like that. Then there's another set of people that I encountered that were like, I walked into a place, and this place knew that I had COVID-19. As soon as I crossed the threshold, one of them hollered, "Rona," as if to warn people that I had it. And that kind of ticked me off, I'm not going to lie, because I worked very hard to remain isolated while I had it. Followed the guidelines that I felt that were going to be safer for me being reintroduced to the public, and safer for the people all around. So I waited until I tested negative to even think about going back to work. So I crossed that threshold, and the one hollers "Rona," and immediately anyone that was close to me took 3 steps back. It was as if I had the plague, and they immediately needed to stay away from me. And I looked right at the one who hollered "Rona." I said, "Let me tell you something." I said, "I've tested negative. I don't have it anymore." And then she was all like, "Well, why are you getting defensive and this, that, and the other?" And I'm like, because with me, the difference knowing that I'm negative is knowing that I don't have it and I'm not infectious anymore. You're in here entertaining, in a way, other people who may have had it, who did not go through that same protocol because they followed the CDC guidelines of, you test positive, you isolate for 10 days, you have no fever for 3 days, and you're off all medications for 24 hours. Those people who have that and are not being retested could still be infectious and spreading it. I said, the difference with me is I know I'm not infectious. I said, you're in a town that's full of people who follow those CDC guidelines, who refuse to retest people. Number one, they refuse to retest people, and they could still be wandering around infectious because they only followed the CDC guidelines. So after that, I walked into another place, and they were like, "Oh my God, Rona," I was like, what is with you people? It was really bugging me to a degree that it shouldn't have, but it did. But I eventually had to get to a point where I was like, you know what? I know what I've done, and I know that I've made everything that I can possibly do safe for the people that I encounter. And if they want to sit there and holler coronavirus from me after I've had it and I tested negative, then that's on them. I can't change their opinion. I mean, I couldn't even do that before I got COVID-19. I put up a video about wearing masks and social distancing and hand sanitizing, and mentioned a couple of developments, including the place where I work. And the place contacted the owner of where I'm at and said she doesn't have a right to say anything about this place. She needs to take that video down. But yet, now that I've had it and others have had it, it's funny how before they weren't living in those masks, now they are. So, it comes back around. But anyway, and then I went into another establishment where people were like, "Oh my God, we're so happy, you're back, and it's so good to see you, and we were praying, and we were, keeping tabs," and I mean, it's been interesting to see the vastness of differential in people now who will encounter with you after you've had COVID-19. There are some that know that you're okay because you've done everything you can, and others want to stay away, and that's fine. Because you know what? I don't want to get it again. If there's another strain, which there's potentiality that this thing morphs, there's a different strain, like the flu, it has different strains and all this other stuff. So I'm like, I don't want to get it again. So if you want to stay 12 feet away from me, that is fine with me. Because I don't want it again. That was hard enough to go through. That sickness of having that virus was the only time that I think I've battled fever for that long, and to have had the extenuating effects of it after I've had it. Any other time I've gotten sick, I've taken the regimen of whatever I needed to do, and I was able to rebound. This, like even still now, I'm still in recuperation mode. Like I was talking about in my last video, which I'll link below, but it's been interesting reacclimating into society after you've had something that's got such a stigma behind it of, oh my God, stay away, So it's a breath of fresh air to see people who are welcoming, who know that you're okay, who know that you're not infectious, who know that you're not going to do anything of detriment to their health. And it's just sad to see people who know that you had it still act like you haven't. It's the craziest thing, but that's the way they're propaganding this virus in a way, and it needs to, because how infectious it is and how it spreads, which we still don't know about, because if it is airborne, and I'm in a small apartment with my father, then how come he didn't get it if it's airborne? I mean, yes, I isolated from him, but he didn't catch it. Of course, I did a lot of measures to make sure he didn't catch it by cleaning and, I mean, granted it wiped me out, but I still did those things to keep him safe. I mean, he's in his 70s. He's had a heart condition. He's had mental breakdowns. I mean, and my brother wouldn't take him. So I had to do extenuating measures beyond taking care of battling a fever and making sure I was getting hydrated and fighting, everything that I could, which took everything out of me, especially in the early phases, to do anything. I mean, that first night that I cooked dinner, it took an hour to cook breakfast. It doesn't take an hour to cook breakfast. I mean, eggs and stuff, I mean, come on. It took me an hour. And I was like, I'm sorry it's taking me so long to cook dinner, but I feel so awful. I'm getting it together. And we finally got it together, and he ate, and I had to go crash. But heavily stigmatized, and which it to a degree, yes, it needs to be, but don't be treating people like they're aliens afterward. You know, I mean, use some common sense. I mean, now yes, if you don't know they've tested negative, take precautionary measures. I get that. But if you know that someone is actively tested negative and there's no traces of it found in their system, then you should be okay with knowing that they're okay and they can't infect you. So that's my little food for thought as to how, after having COVID-19, you're affected in societal ways that is not talked about. I've not heard anybody talk about this stuff, so I want to put it out there. So just to let you know that people, if you have had COVID-19, they'll look at you like, and that you're going to want to be stayed away from with a yardstick. I mean, but not everybody's like this. Some are actually going to be welcoming and appreciative that you're okay, and thank God that you're better. So just know that there's going to be a vast different response from people after you've had it. So just wanted to do that and just put that out there because it needs to be known. So y'all have an amazing one. I will catch you in my next video. Bye.